I was waiting on the lady to say this meeting is being recorded. All right. Well, hi, everybody. This is Phyllis Clark. I am Associate Director for the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative. Welcome to another of our Community of Practice sessions for Corequisite. So happy you all are here. I know nice little small group today. We're not going to do any breakout rooms or anything, but I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see our agenda and some of the slides that I've prepared for you. So this is going to be an interactive session today too, as the core team and I were kind of thinking through what we wanted to share today. We're going to flip the script a little bit. So we've been talking a lot around what has been emerging as far as a new gateway course strategy. Yes. So we've been looking at the issues, some of the challenges, looking at what the priorities and things like that are. But what's happening right now on all of your all's campuses? What's going well? What's feeling good? What needs to, just go a little farther, faster with some more fuel or and so let's get into some of that in terms of what you are bringing to your table and your campus communities right now. So maybe we can learn a little bit from each other in that way today, if you are okay with that. And a couple of our core team members are going to help me take the lead on providing some data in case you need to just take a look back at where we've come from, why we're even having this discussion right now. There are some big reasons for that. And so we're going to just take 30 seconds to review, as some of you might be new to the space, new to the conversation, and I'm sure it will provide a little bit of context that will help you and maybe all of us as we continue to talk about this. So let me share my screen. Okay, I think I'm just going to keep it right here. So hopefully you don't mind seeing the slides over in the far left, but this will help me navigate a little bit better and faster. So our agenda for today, let's do some introductions. Since it's not 30 or 40 folks online with us right now, I think we can maybe come off mute if that's okay. We'll go through that and then we'll talk a little bit about how we got here, where we're going, and what's working well now. Okay, hopefully that sounds like a game plan. So give me a second to, let's see some faces. If you can come off of, if you can show your sweet face, please do that. But just going to popcorn it to Erica. Feel free to introduce yourself and share whatever you wish.
Okay, my name is Erica Whitaker. I'm Director of Service Courses in the Math Department at University of Kentucky. I will send it to Ed.
I'm Ed Tommy, Chair of Mathematics and Statistics at Murray State University. I'll send it to Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Bailey. I'm the Executive Director for Reach and Testing Services at the University of Louisville. And I'll send it to Elena.
Hi, my name is Elena. I teach math at Maysville Community and Technical College, and I will send to Byron.
Hello, I'm a professor of mathematics at South Central Kentucky Community and Technical College, and I will send it to Bethany.
Hi, Bethany Warner, Director of Advising and Career Services, work with our academic readiness population at EKU. Oh, I will send it to Rick.
Hi, I'm Rick Matika. I teach math at Somerset Community College. And I think everyone I can see on my screen is already spoken. So I don't know who I'm going to send it to.
So this is
Jennifer Peevely. I'll just go ahead and jump on. I'm actually the mathematics and statistics coordinator at BCTC, and then I'm also a math professor, and I will send it to Shane. I don't think Shane's had a chance.
Hey, I'm Shane. I'm chair of the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at EKU. And has John had a chance to introduce himself?
John has not. Thanks. John Hall. I am the coordinator of transfer services and an academic advisor up at Gateway. And I'm also on the core team for Gateway Course Success for CPE. Frank?
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Robinson. I'm the director of the First Year Student Success Hub at Northern Kentucky University. My apologies for being off camera. That will change shortly. But I'm also on the core team, and glad to see everybody. Sorry, I can't see who is still left. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Nicole, have you gone yet? See if she's showing. Okay, and while we're waiting for her, let's see. I want to call on Kasha, but that's not Kasha. Go right ahead. Okay, has everybody gone then?
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hyman. I'm the Dean of Arts and Humanities at Sky CTC in Bowling Green, and I'm also a member of the CPE Gateway Course Success Core Team.
Okay, and Nicole is having problems with her mic. Okay, but Nicole, we see you are here. All right, has everybody gone? James, have you gone?
No, ma'am. Jim Turner at Sky CTC.
Great, thank you all for being here. Who else? Go ahead and jump off.
Hi, I'm Julia LaFoon Jackson. I did not know I was on Kasha's thing. She sent me the link, and I guess it shows that she's the one who's here, but I don't know how that's going to work. But anyway, I'm Julia LaFoon Jackson. I am at Hopkinsville Community College. I am the Dean or Division Chair of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, and I teach English and co-requisite writing.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's funny. I don't know how that worked that way.
I don't know. I couldn't find a link to get into today's meeting, and so I asked Kasha if she would send me a link, which she did, but apparently it's just for her, I guess.
Yeah, that's totally fine. This is something new that we're doing in terms of having to register for the webinar. I mean, it's not new to us, but it's new for these meetings. So thank you all for complying with that. And I think Kasha has just joined us. Kasha, we've just finished introductions. Would you like to come in and share really quickly?
Let's see if I can get this to work.
Yep.
Well, you can hear me though, right?
Yes.
All right. I don't know if I can get the camera to work. Hi, I'm Kasha. I'm Kasha Miller. I'm the Assistant Dean of Student Success and Retention over at Bluegrass Community and Technical College and one of the new CPE faculty fellows for Gateway College Success. What else do we want? Is that good? Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, I think we're ready to get into some content. So I will share my screen again. Jump back into the PowerPoint.
While you're doing that, Kasha, your video is working. Like, I can see you.
Yes. Okay, so if you are new to this space and you don't know, you've heard about the collaborative, but if you haven't seen some of the work that we are involved in, or if you haven't yet heard about our mission, vision, and what are we tapped to do, I decided to add this screen just to kind of share a little bit of that with you. You know, the main thing that we're helping our partners, you all, is to increase completion rates, eliminate equity gaps, and enhance what we're saying is economic mobility. A lot of people use the word advancement of our students. And we do this in a very non-compliant, collaborative effort. And so hence the new communities of practice that are popping up with regard to very specific topical areas like Gateway Core Success and mental health, for which I have an announcement at the end of our time together, and so many others. So thank you for your willingness to participate and sharing the link and doing all the things that we've done over the past 2 years. We've only been established for 2 years. But I'm Phyllis Clark, and I serve as Associate Director. There are 2 of us. Many of you have already met Dr. Beth Collins, and she is heavily involved in our transfer work. Our Executive Director, as many of you know, is Dr. Lily Massa-McKinley, and she is strongly vested in our student basic needs work. And so the 3 areas that we look to work with regard to first year post-success is Gateway Core Success and belonging and financial wellness. And so I serve as the lead for all of the Gateway Core Success. And so what's been happening since June 20th is really just listening to all of the stakeholder voices. And we've actually had 1, 2, this is our 3rd conversation. So we're digging a little deeper with regard to this, which is why I think it's helpful for us to kind of know what is currently happening. Maybe last year and early in the year, we were talking about some of that, but we had not been working on developing a strategy. So now we're in the heart of that. And I think this recording is going to help me pull out some of those gems and be able to let our thought partners, our thought leaders, the folks who are helping us to write and develop the strategy to understand what we can carry forward in terms of what you say is what's going on your campuses right now that's really working for you and what we can learn from. And so I'd like to invite Dr. Stephanie. She tells me not to call her that, but I'm calling her that anyway because she is on this road to PhD like I am, and we are getting done. But she is going to share a little bit of her perspective around Gateway Course Success. We have a couple of data slides, and that is going to help all of us understand even more why Kentucky is now talking about this, wanting to elevate it in a different way and to bring forth a Gateway Course strategy. So, Dr. Stephanie?
I'll take that honorary title, Phyllis, in spirit and solidarity.
Yeah.
So I always appreciate any opportunity to talk about Gateway Course Success. Recently, and I won't name names, I had a conversation with a textbook publishing representative who stopped by and asked me, what is a Gateway course? And I said, you've come to the right office. We're going to have this conversation. So, you know, we're always focused on the English and the math, but there are other courses that we can consider Gateway courses, that first particular entry to the subject. And in the past, we used to call them gatekeeper courses, but that's a little bit more of a negative perspective on that. Unfortunately, that tends to be the truth for some college students, that these classes will keep them from moving forward in their academic career. But some of the things that we've been interested in is looking at, you know, accurate placement. What are some teaching strategies in the classroom that work? And then outside the classroom, what are the support practices that we need to be putting in place to help students accomplish the feat of getting through Gateway English and Math together? Because it's not just one, it's both. And in particular, and I think we've talked about this in this group before, I know we're talking about it heavily at my institution right now. We have this freshman year, the COVID class, right? They're here on our campuses, and they're online in our online classes, and the struggle is obvious. So we're having to be more intentional than we've ever been before to help students complete these classes and get that first academic milestone. So we'll take a look at some of the data on that. If Dr. Phyllis will advance me, there we go. So this data is alarming. If it doesn't shock you, it should. This data is from the academic year 2021, so right at the start of COVID. Nationally, only 16% of community college students complete gateway courses in both math and English in the first year. If we look at Kentucky in particular, only 21% of community college students completed them both in the academic year 2021, and 44% of public university students. So a little better in 4-year partners, but still less than half are getting through the gateway courses in their first year. And it's really important strategically for them to get those courses early, because their success in the gateway course really has an impact on their long-term academic outcomes. The sooner they can get in those classes and complete them, the better that they will do. It predicts how much more likely they are to complete their credential and graduate. And from the community college perspective, completing the gateway courses gives us insight as to how much more likely they are to transfer to one of our 4-year partners. We can move ahead and talk about retention a little bit.
Okay, I think we have a hand.
Oh, I can't see it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Stephanie, before you move on, so you mentioned these percentages are specific to the first year in college. I know typically over the last decade or so, we've been reporting data to CPE that pertains to how quickly students complete their developmental coursework and enter into their credit bearing, for example, math class within the first 3 semesters of enrollment. So when we factor in that 3rd semester, how much do we see in terms of percentage increase? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't. This is the data that Dr. Lilly shared at the CPE Student Success Summit in 2022. So I don't know what those metrics are. I haven't seen it disaggregated so that we would know the impact of the students who take a little bit longer because they go through the developmental sequence. I think this is looking at just specifically the gateway course itself and not taking into consideration if there's extra time that has been built in before. I don't know the number of students in this figure that would have had developmental experiences.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I can do, because your question is recorded, is to lift it out and pose it to Kentucky Stats.
That'd be awesome.
And see what's going on there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And that's a valid question and point for a couple of reasons. We know that in the community college, which is my experience, 2/3 of our students require at least one developmental course to in their enrollment experience with us. So that definitely is some slowdown and can impact the number that are completing in that first year experience, particularly if they're not in an accelerated or co-requisite model, which is kind of the work that we're wanting to advance here. So I think that's very important. It looks like Kasha has her hand up. I can see that hand, but I'm sorry I couldn't see yours, Jeff.
Well, it's not Kasha, it's the non-Kasha.
Oh,
yeah, thank you. It's the non-Kasha.
This is Julia. I have a question about the 21% of community college students as well. Is that figure including all community college students? And the reason why I'm asking is because it seems to me that the students who are not working towards an associate degree should be tossed out of that figure, because they're not required to complete gateway courses in math and English. They're just going after a certificate, or they're going after a technical degree, or not degree, but a technical program that does not require those gateway courses to begin with. But if we're just accounting every single community college student, then we're getting a number that is worse looking than the reality is.
Yeah,
where are you from, Julia? What institution are you from?
Hopkinsville Community College.
Hopkinsville. Do your technical programs for the degrees, do they not require Gateway English for graduation?
there are some programs that do not. There are a lot of I call them little programs, that only require a certificate. They only have to take 2 or 3 technical courses, and that's it, and that's all they're going for.
I think too, what we have to think about when we're looking at this particular data is that we do have a focus on the quote unquote traditional pathway, looking at students who hopefully do plan to pursue transfer in some of this data, because you're right. If they're not, then some of that metric could be off because of different programs and what they require. I know at my institution, if you get a degree in welding or if you get a degree in AMT, you have to take the Gateway English and a technical math. So they would pass through. So I do think it's important to know that the different requirements are there. But the bigger picture of this data is that students who do not complete those courses, if they are on the transfer pathway, this spells doom, right, for their academic outcome. So it's a low milestone. Even if we factor those students out, that's even going to reduce this number further, which should make it even more shocking, right? So I think we have to look at big picture data and what that is letting us know about this particular group of students. Good questions and good points.
Yeah, thank you. I've already asked the second question to someone outside of our communications right now, just to see if I can find that out. But okay, I'll move on.
Okay. So the other, I guess, dark side of that data is that in higher ed, we talk a lot about early momentum metrics, and we know that if students taste a little bit of success early on, that they're more likely to persist and be retained in their programs. But what we have noticed with the gateway courses, particularly with math and English, is that if students take those classes in their first year and complete them successfully, they're more likely to be retained into the second year. If they do not complete the gateway English or math successfully, their likelihood of being retained to the second year is even less. So the data from CPE, which is reporting out national data, shows us that 45% of community college students who complete their math and English gateway will graduate within 3 years. So that's pretty good timing. But if they don't, only 20% of them will graduate within 3 years. So you can see that that number drops significantly when students don't complete those gateway milestones. So it's important not just for their long-term outcome for success in terms of completing courses, GPA, et cetera, but actually keeping them enrolled at the college. So it goes a long way in padding their investment to be retained and to continue to complete their credential. I think probably the most problematic part of this conversation is on the next slide. And this is not a new issue or anything that we're not aware of, but it is a persistent issue that really is front and center in the composition world right now. That's I don't supervise math, so I'm having these English conversations. So I'd love for our math partners and friends to chime in on this. But gateway course completion is truly right now at its heart an equity issue. We are seeing persistent data, decades worth, that show us that students of color are lagging behind in their success in gateway courses. So this is really a wake-up call for us to implement culturally competent pedagogy in our classrooms, to look at strategies that we can put into place inside and outside class to support students from all different groups, and really start to bring different levels up and start to flatten that line instead of having such a huge gap. We know in Kentucky and nationally, we're looking at the 60 by 30. We really want to see more students get that post-secondary credential by the year 2030. We want to get that number up. But in order to do that, that means that all of our population has to be successful. So our focus really has to be on equity in order to enable that to happen, to create the diverse workforce that we need in our state. We have to put in strategic interventions to help bring the equity gap to a close. So this is not, again, not new information, but it's a topic that keeps coming up, and it's time to do something different about it. Lately, I've heard in 2 different talks that I've been invited to that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so we can't keep looking at this data and saying, oh, we need to do something different. We need to do something. well, the time to do something different is now. So that's part of this work with CPE. And I'm very excited about learning about what's going on in your institutions, because there are faculty who are already making great strides in this.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Stephanie. We'll get a chance to highlight some of that along when we go and look at the priorities that have emerged from all of these conversations. And so switching gears just a little bit, not switching gears, but maybe just a pivot. We want to show you what's been happening. Some of you might remember this from a prior conversation, but just to kind of focus on it one more time. Let me ask Frank Robinson, you've been in almost all of the conversations we've been having around these objectives that have now come to life for us. Can you talk through just a couple of things and just provide your own perspective and any other insight? These next two screens deal directly with the objectives themselves, and then the priorities or the actions, however we want to look at them. I kind of want to show you all that before we go on our Jamboard here in just a minute. So, Frank.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Phyllis. So it's actually a really good segue to the last slide. When we think about things being an equity issue, and how do we help make sure that gateway courses and the success that students are having is effective. These are some kind of key things I think that have come out of some of those conversations, prioritizing our efforts to collaborate and to work across institutions. I think that's something that this group has done actually pretty well. We've been talking internally in the Corequisite group about how to do this, some of the challenges that we're all facing, in terms of meeting the needs and the demands for the students. And I think that we've kind of had several conversations around how when you think about centering student needs, how it's actually beyond just the classroom, the holistic supports that we're providing for students. And that might be in multiple forms. It could be supplemental instruction. It could be an additional credit hour with more study time. We've seen there's been conversations about even how do we help bridge students. Last week there was a conversation about summer bridge programs even that can help students to transition into their institution. So there's a few different strategies that we're already using, but when we think about the equity piece of it, I think it's about inclusion and removing barriers as well. I was actually having a conversation with my wife, who's also in higher education yesterday, and she brought up a really good point, and I think it's worthy of the topic we're talking about today with this, and that is when you think about inclusion, you're really thinking about students feeling expected and feeling accepted. So when we think about students feeling expected, how are we prepared for the students that are coming in that we have not even seen yet? Maybe it's students with a disability. Maybe it's students who have those educational barriers or low test scores, or it could even be demographics of race, as we've been talking about. So, but how are we prepared for all of the potential students that can come in? And that's hard because sometimes you don't know what to expect. But when you think about trying to develop strategy about making equity happen and removing barriers, the idea is to do as much work on the front end as you can to think about how are we welcoming all the students and then feeling accepted, right? So once the students get there, are they feeling that they're included? Are they feeling that they're part of what's happening? Do they feel like they're getting that support that they need? So I think, those two things together, the being expected and being accepted, can help with that inclusion piece. So I think as we think about our strategies, that could be really helpful. So yes, thank you. Going to the next slide. These are some of the key objectives that have kind of come out, and some of the key points underneath those that our core group has kind of landed as key areas of focus. So under objective 1, strengthen communication and collaboration. One of the things is kind of tracking the data on student enrollment and success in the gateway courses. Obviously, this has also been something we've talked about in this group a little bit. Convening the community of practice, yay, we're here, to identify best practices and develop those strategies for good design and delivery of those courses to help support students. And then another one that we haven't talked as much about in this group, but I think is also important, is developing the messaging for advisors and students. You know, how we can reinforce the importance of these courses and the impacts that it can have in terms of timing for program success and moving on to future courses, as well as a timeline towards graduation. Under the second objective, centering student needs, one of the things that we've been discussing is how important it will be to prioritize student voices in this conversation, so that we can hear about their experience directly firsthand, and that might give us some insights to things that we can do for strategy. And so thinking about those strategies, is that a redesign? Is it providing different types of support, tutoring, coaching, mentoring, some of the things I was mentioning earlier, some of those different strategies that we could look at to provide support. And then wrap around. So I mentioned earlier holistic support. So how do we provide other services that students need to supplement what they're doing with these gateway courses, to make sure that that we can help with as many things during the semester as we can. And then finally, removing barriers. So looking at the different practices on students and some of the things that are going on. Even right now, I know there's some conversations around FAFSA changes that are happening, and how I think there's a back and forth right now about are the changes that are being made, does that cater to middle and upper class students versus low income students, right? So so things like that we might need to even think about or consider. And then also just thinking about the role of the faculty in this. Obviously, faculty are huge key components of students making those connections and feeling supported and having the mentorship and success, as well as the academic preparedness. So how do we think about strategies around that? And then finally, professional development opportunities. And that's something I think our campus is focusing a lot on right now. Lunch and learns, cultural competency type of training and development that we can do to kind of help to make sure that we're thinking about that piece of equity and also inclusion with our students. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's a lot to unpack there.
It is, and I'm going to ask us to think about it a little more deeply in terms of what is already taking place on our campuses, and we're going to get on the Jamboard in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to just quickly share with you what we're thinking about next. And I'm sorry, I got two statements in here that are the same, so just skip over that. But we're going to finalize the draft of this strategy here. I want to say here November, December, and we'll start sharing with other campus partners. So you and other administrators on your campus will get to see all of this and hopefully provide some more feedback for us by the end of December. Well, of course, presenting to our certain boards through CPE, working with the core team, the senior fellows, to talk a little bit more about what the rollout is going to look like starting in the spring, and then this last one here, tracking key metrics of success and continuous improvement. So what I would love for us to do now is, hopefully you have a device or a tablet or something where you can click on this link that I'm about to put in the chat. Y'all, fun fact, I just heard, if you didn't know, the Jamboard is going to be going away. And I think Google is partnering with some other companies now to deliver this Jamboard whiteboard style of presentation for us. So watch out for that. It's going to be next year though. So if you have thoughts or questions, anything like that, hold them just for a second. Let's get set up, and I'm going to throw us all over onto the Jamboard and explain how we're going to use it. Okay, I'm on the Jamboard. And I'm going to come back to you. Nope, I'm not going to do that. Oh, yeah, yes, I am. Okay. So you'll be able to see the Jamboard on the screen as soon as I share it. But if you want to be interactive with it, I need to You're like, oh, this is the last thing I was looking at. No, this is really the Jamboard. But I'm about to share it really quickly. You are seeing how I'm doing this. Making all of you all editors. I'm going to copy this link. Go into our chat. And if you're unable to work in the Jamboard, just feel free to put your thoughts in the chat or some other things. Let me hold on one second. Okay. Maybe I should have done that the other way around, but I'm stretching myself with all this technology and doing it on my own. Yay! Oh, y'all are fast. Thank you. Again, if you're on your phone and you can still do Jamboard from your phone, it looks a little different, but you can do it. But if you don't have time to focus on it that way right now and just want to contribute in other ways, feel free to still place comments and thoughts in the chat. All right, I think all of us might be in here or close to it. Okay, so Frank just kind of so eloquently just spoke about each 9 of these. And again, this is what's been shaping up. And I feel like we've kind of saturated the voices because I'm hearing all of these repeats and some different things some of the same things are starting to come up. So what we want to do at this juncture is take a little bit of time to come over to the sticky notes. Maybe you all already know how to do all of this now, but here's the sticky and you just click on it, pick a color, and you can put your school, just abbreviate it. Yeah, see, look, you already know what I'm gonna say. And just kind of, you might have to make it smaller, but just kind of go where you want in terms of these 9 priorities. And let's just look for the commonalities around what's working well at your institution. Let's just try it and see. I think I could have thought of something else to. Let's see take a minute to think about that or to read through. I hope the text is big enough to focus on. Yeah, just stick it out beside it and I can make adjustments on this end too. And once everybody kind of places something somewhere, we'll talk about this a little bit in terms of what year. Okay, NKU. Uh-oh, is somebody doing that? Okay, I think it's me.
Phyllis, on my Jamboard, it is just a white board. It doesn't have the text on it. So I'm just putting my sticky and moving it where it feels right.
Oh, okay. Now that is really interesting. It should have. Oh, I think I know why. I see at the very top, it shows the pages. Are you on page 2 possibly? Oh, okay. Let's see where this. Thank you all for participating. I think this is going to be really helpful in my next conversation when I take this back to our SOVA leaders who are helping to write the strategy. Whoops. I think someone kind of moved the, yeah. Yeah, thank you. The reason that it does that, the whole page moves, is because I just laid one image on top of the whiteboard. That helps. All right, let's take like 20 seconds or so. Okay, there's a blue sticky at the top above objective 2. Did that belong to someone? Yes, it did. Okay. Don't forget to enter your. Y'all are working. Thank you. Mm. Okay, with the few minutes we have left, if we can go ahead, and again, if you're still looking and thinking and posting, feel free to keep doing that. But at this point, at this juncture, I would love to, there's something glaring at me right now, and I want to see if you all are thinking the same thing. But anybody want to just kind of come off and tell me their thoughts of overall about what's going on here?
So I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but I noticed that nobody has put a sticky by prioritize student voices.
Ding, 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 ding. Wish I had it. Okay, but I don't. Yeah. And so I think what I want to do is go over here. That's exactly what I was getting at, but I'm gonna get this pen. Okay, can we talk about that for a second? And I'm thinking maybe we do, but we're not considering it. I don't know. Can we hone in on that for just a second?
This is Frank from NKU.
Go ahead.
We haven't tried to do this around Corequisite courses, but when we revamped our first year experience last year, we did try to get students to do a focus group to give us some feedback. And one of the things that was kind of an interesting thing that happened is that we contacted all of the students, but we got like little response back, and we even incentivized food, which usually does draw students historically, but it didn't seem to like pivot the group of students that we wanted this time. So a lot of the times, like, we end up talking to the students who are highly involved in things, and sometimes not necessarily the students who are not highly involved. But I think that there's some strategy around how do we capture the student voices we want to get, especially with something like this. I think obviously we may need to really target certain courses or certain areas to really get the voices we want to get out of this. But I think, or surveys and other things, but I think it's I don't know, I'd be interested to see if other schools have had success with that, or have a change. Maybe it's a change in this generation. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious if anyone else has had any sort of experience like that.
Food doesn't work anymore. it doesn't work anymore, which means our incentives are limited. At the community college level, we have such a transient population. They're commuters. We don't have residences to try to capture students and get them to stay on campus for anything, especially something extra, has just proven to be extremely, extremely difficult. And so if you start exploring the alternative forms of communication, like you can't get them on campus in a group. Okay, great. So let's try sending out a survey. Let's try sending out some of this. Even with those, we don't necessarily get the responses we want because of all the normal problems of trying to use that as a data collection method. So I think it's a huge challenge. And I do not have any ideas at this point. Like I've been really stressing over this particular aspect.
There is one thought I had that I haven't explored, but I think it could be one small way. But obviously, most universities have a student evaluation courses at the end of the semester, so we may be able to collect some data from that too. But I don't know. It might be something where we may need to think like, could you go to visit the class for the day and maybe have, I don't know, but then the instructor's in the room, I don't know. So it
Well,
can get
and then you're also only getting those students that came to class and are taking classes on campus.
Sure.
We still have 60% of our population taking classes only online.
Yeah.
And I mean, so no matter what intervention we trying to get that big picture is very, very difficult. I think you can get the qualitative feedback from your better students, your high achieving students who stay till the end of the semester, you know, that subpopulation, yes. But all the other students, that's a challenge.
I am wondering if, well, I fully believe this has to do with the students of today. You know, we're designing things for who we were 30 years ago, or more in my case, maybe, and it's not the same student. So I've had several students who don't come to class very often, and I've contacted them directly, and they respond back exactly what they know I want to hear, but there's no change. And I wish we had success coaches in place. We're going to be doing something like that as part of our new QEP of mental health and student and wellness, starting here in about next semester, I think. But the success coaches may know them better, and they're kind of both inside the same shell together a little bit because of their close contact, and they might come out with the real something more honest than the boilerplate thing they know I want to hear. And so I have a good relationship with a lot of the class, but the ones we're talking about who are going to have difficulty making it are those that's just really hard to connect with, I think.
I have another idea, but this would take a little bit of work. But I think you know, if there's a way students can sometimes give their feedback and it be more anonymous, like where they can give their feedback and it not be something where they have to put their name to it, or something where they can have a space where they feel like they're a little bit more free to share their opinion. Now I don't know if that's like a social media type of thing, or if that's a, you know, the structure of it might need to be something, but that maybe that's something that may feel students give them an avenue where they feel a little more safe sharing. Because I think sometimes there's a, you know, students wonder or get concerned about, is this comment going to fall back on me if it's not positive, or, you know, that sort of thing, you know. So so that might be just another thought to think about.
Maybe this is a good time for me to tell you. Oh, Kasha, do you still have your hand up with?
Oh, I probably do.
Comment?
Sorry. I
Oh,
was
that's
going to say that it's important, though, that anything we use isn't self-selected, because otherwise you're just going to get the students that have really strong positive or negative, and you're going to miss the entire middle group.
That's a good point. I was just going to mention that we have a new student intern team at CPE, but it runs through the collaborative. And so I've been supervising that group, and 3 big buckets of work for that team is to create a statewide ambassadorship program. You all are going to hear a little bit more about this because I'm wanting you to help me get that information to students. So between that and creating a space to amplify their voices and in terms of in class and out of class lived experiences, we're creating a podcast. And then the third way, I can't remember, it just rolled out of my head because I'm trying to tell you right now. But you'll be seeing a little bit more of this, but we are creating a space. Oh, I know what it is. It's for example, for students to be a part of some of these conversations that we're having around this. And so I wonder if maybe for our November or even our December meeting, if we could invite some students. And of course, I can coordinate on the back end and set up, whatever it is that you all might want to hear from students or whatever. So core team, I'll be talking to you about that, and maybe we can come up with a really cool deliverable that includes student voices in this space. Okay, but I don't want to diminish all the great things that are already going on. So let's talk about some of that. So when you all first saw how all of this was coming up and you were hearing maybe in some other meetings what has been emerging, what are your impressions around what you're seeing here in terms of what's happening? I mean, I think it's, well, let me be quiet with what I think. What do you think? Is it almost like, yeah, we're just, doing these same things. This has been done. We're working through this now. Where is like what's still missing? What makes this a little bit more energizing or innovative in terms of the type of strategy that we want to see? What's going to help make it work? What's going to give the engine, any thoughts or perspective on where we're going and what does this feel like? Or is this trash? I mean, yes, Jeff, what are you thinking?
I think the challenge is that most of our institutions are expecting us to tackle all of them without one, providing a realistic scenario in which we are able to strategically choose how and when we're going to tackle each one, and putting resources, both human capital and financial, behind this. It's the everybody into the deep end now kind of approach, which is typical higher ed. It just is. So I think we have to be very purposeful about engaging with campus leaders, CPE, et cetera, to ensure that we're not burning everybody out because everybody's already exhausted. I think we have to be very strategic and purposeful about how we go about this and which ones we try to tackle, which rises to the top. It's not that, we can create this thing. It's going to be different for each campus, which things, rise to the top. But I think we've got to find a way to do that on our respective campuses.
Jeff, I think that's a good point. One of the things, one of the challenges we have on our campus that's really clear is in the wake of test optional, we certainly have ways for students to do placement testing, but the university doesn't have the financial resources to put a campus-wide structure in place to make sure all the students that don't come in with test scores have some sort of placement test. We have to kind of almost do it piecemeal, student by student, to kind of encourage them to do this, especially if it's a situation where that placement test has a bearing on timeline and sequencing and things like that for their program. So knowing that our campus is not able to resource that exactly the way it needs to be done, probably, then we're kind of at the stalemate of okay, because even right now, our admissions policy is up for review on our campus, but we're not sure what to do with it because we can't enforce it because there's not, we're test optional and we need to still, so we're trying to like figure out this balance of what do we do. And so I think even that's just kind of a resource. Like how it'd be great if we had like some sort of structure in place where, we're still test optional, but we have a structure for how placement testing is going to happen for those students who don't come in that way. So we're just not there yet. So I don't know. So
And I think that's a great example. The other piece to that part of the conversation is that for situations like that dovetail between K-12 and really we're talking about high schools and the colleges of any size or shape. We really need to be thinking more purposeful by the time they get to us, right? Trying to manage this, because our center does all of that. Our testing services center will administer AccuPlacer as well as some of the other tests. It's almost too late. We're spending inordinate amounts of time trying to track these kids down, especially the traditional age students, to take these tests. It would make more sense if KDE would simply implement that across the board in the state, so that during the spring semester of their senior year, they have an alternative. If they didn't do as well on ACT, let's have them take AccuPlacer. Implement it in the schools. It's cheaper than ACT, and we wouldn't have to hunt these kids down. It's not a good use of personnel and resources.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm opinionated about anything.
No.
So I guess my frustration, and this is from a faculty perspective, not as much of the coordinator role, is that I feel like, I think Jeff mentioned the deep end. I feel like I'm in the deep end because at the same time that the co-requisite changes came and we switched to that model, we also went to the optional testing and we had COVID. So I've got students in my college algebra co-requisite class who cannot add -5 + 9. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because COVID got them. I don't know if it's because they're being placed incorrectly, or I don't know if the co-requisite model is not working. And so every time I feel like I'm making any kind of progress, I feel like I get hit by another tidal wave and I don't even know where it's coming from. And so I'm not really sure how we resolve that, but I feel the frustration, and I'm hearing it from my faculty too, that we're trying to get these students to be successful, but they're just so far behind and we don't even know why or how to fix it.
You're not alone. Doesn't fix it, but you're not alone.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, but does anybody have anything that they're doing, to kind of try to figure that out?
Maybe that's a good setup for our November conversation. Oh, and we can save the student part for December, but I'll get back to y'all on that. Thank you all so much. I know it's 5 o'clock and we have to cut this off, but if you still have some ideas or something that you're shaping up in your mind right now and you kind of want to get it out or just share that with me, feel free to email me. This chat, I think, is going to go away, so you won't be able to drop it in there, but I would still love to hear from you. So just email me. Again, thank you for your time. And our next, well, I think we're in a nice little cycle with our meetings now. So November the 2nd, I think, November 2nd at 4 o'clock, feel free to bring other faculty members. The announcement I wanted to make was that the Community of Practice for Mental Health is kicking off. I think there are about 50 or 60 folks registered for that. Lily is going to lead that, and that is on October the 12th at about 2 o'clock. Oh, forgive me if it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. It's later in the afternoon, but I can share that back out when I follow up with you all. Again, this meeting was recorded, and so I'm going to do my due diligence and get it back in the Impact Exchange. And you can go there and hear the recordings and questions and all of the other things that were shared. Okay, thank you all. See you all at the next meeting. And remember to reach out to me if you need me. That's what I'm here for. Let's see. Very cool.